Hello, everybody. Good evening. It is 8:30 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee on April 3rd, 2025. So we'll jump right in to the big elephant in the room today, or yeah, I guess so. The big plunge today on the markets. Um, that is not what was expected. Okay, I'm referring to the Trump tariffs. People were expecting. There seemed to be like three camps of what people think what was going on in terms of the Trump tariffs. One, it's going to be, let's make a deal, art of the deal situation. I'm going to use it as leverage to renegotiate. And there's two is those who thought, yeah, we're going to set in some permanent tariffs here and there, and um, we're going to bring in more manufacturing home, the manufacturing base home, and things like that. And then there is what happened today. Okay. This isn't art of the deal. This isn't tit for tat. This is policy. I mean, I really believe, and the sources I follow really believe that this is policy. This is a fundamental change. Now, the difference is while Trump in his first term was tit for tat, renegotiated deals, a lot has happened since then. See, manufacturing jobs were up during his first administration. Okay. We were spending money, the pre COVID numbers as a percentage of our GDP. A lot has happened during the Biden administration. Okay. It was globalism and progressive neoliberalism on steroids, and it had a massive impact on economy. Now, in this term, okay, and I think because of that, and now Trump is only going to have one term now, he's got to get the ball rolling to do this. Okay, so he's gonna make it happen. Now, apparently, he said on Air Force One, 2 years is the goal to get this really implemented. So I think the markets had priced in a little tariff war, a tit for tat, we'll renegotiate and whatever. They didn't expect this. And they didn't expect the formula that they used based upon trade imbalances. That's why you had so many different rates for different countries and so forth. So I think that, remember, markets don't, particularly equity markets, don't like uncertainty. Okay. Because companies can adapt to keep the profit line up. So if they know what they're expecting, like if a Democrat's coming in, they know they're going to expect higher income taxes, at least they know the games to play. How can we get more write-offs? How can we reduce costs to offset that? And they know. And markets will price in what they expect. Okay, but when they don't expect it, boom, S&P down 4 or 5%, Dow down 4 to 5%. So, that's what happened. So I think that's where I have no idea where it's going to go. I don't know if it's effectively priced in, but the problem is when you have uncertainty, you're going to get major volatility. Now, I want to put things in perspective, okay? Because all the sell a quarter elites, like, oh, my market portfolio, whatever. Okay, let's analyze what this economy really is. Okay, it's about 10% manufacturing, if not less. Okay, this economy growing, we'll say, just to make it easy, 2% a year during the Biden administration, with inflation on average at least triple that. Okay, that's price parity. In my opinion, that doesn't mean our GDP is growing. It means our GDP is shrinking. Okay, it doesn't matter in dollars what the bottom line number is. What matters is the realness. Okay, the real, what it buys you, what it buys the consumer, what the business can buy in the marketplace in terms of durable goods, industrial products that they need for whether it's a farm, a factory, or things like that, right? Okay, if you have massive inflation, you know, okay, that doesn't mean your economy grew, your GDP grew that much if you make the same amount of goods because it's costing you more. I've made the argument, like with corporate profits, it's not the revenues in terms of dollars, but the units that they're producing and selling have the price of those units is what went up. Okay. And a corporation, particularly a C corporation, which has to report to shareholders, is going to make sure the profit margins are there, that the dividend stays the same. So you get that inflation and the prices, and it gets put pushed down onto the consumer. Okay. So, but this economy is being fueled with globalism. We also saw starting with COVID and other issues, supply chain problems, and even Trump has commented on that. I remember one time, who thought about this with the car? This part's in this country, this part's in this country. And disruption, it's a problem. Then you have national security risks, and then you have the effect it had, the deindustrialization over the last 30 years to towns and counties and communities all over this country. Okay, certain areas did adapt as we became a more financialized economy. Okay, but presently we are a nation that is about 130 to 140% debt to GDP ratio. Not good. We've had a reduction in purchase power of the dollar of over 20% in 4 years. We have massive trade deficits with the world with higher tariffs than we impose. I've done that in my video showing you the different rates between different countries and regions. Okay. And our economy as GDP, government spending is part of the GDP formula. Now, that's fine if it's just the transference of, all right, my budget's, like a school board, a county budget, we're going to spend $50 million. It's a transfer of taxes to that county. Yeah, you could say it's part of the GDP. But the thing is, we're fueling it by $2 trillion deficits. By the way, thank you, Kevin McCarthy, for locking it in and not using any leverage. Okay, and which is 6 to 7% of our GDP. So we grow 2%. Don't tell me we're growing 2%. We're not. Then add in the 15 to 20 million illegal immigrants that came in over the last 4 years, on top of the others that were already here, on top of legal immigration. Now, add that to the population, divided by population, it's even shrinking even more. Okay. Now, I want to put things in perspective, okay, to you. So you basically have an understanding, okay? And this is where we're going, okay? This is a simple S&P 500 chart, okay? Now, at the beginning of 2021, around January 5th, and I plotted the dates till today, so that 5% drop today is included in that. You had the market run about 45%. You take out today, we'll say 50%, okay? 45%, 4 years. So I want you to think about that. So in the 4 years, let's say you work for a hedge fund. You have a portfolio that was worth $1 million when Biden is sworn in. You now have, and you're invested in, let's say, SPDRs, S&P 500 index funds. You have $2.4 million. $2.4 million. Okay. You owned $1 million house. You now own a $1.5 million house. Okay. That person did not care about the increase of the price of bacon, energy, gas, beef. Okay. The lived experience of the people who are involved with the over financialized economy did well. That's why the more letters you have after your name, the more you vote Democrat and the more you're a globalist. Okay. More likely to be. Okay. Because you're not seeing that. Okay. When Biden took over, you needed a median income, household income, bought you a median income house, which was about $70,000 household income. Today, median income is about $75,000. But you need $115,000 to $120,000 of household income to buy that median income house. Okay, that median priced house. Okay, so all that we've had is basically the purchasing power transfer of wealth from, let's say, 80% of the population to 20, maybe more like 85 or 90 to 10 or 15%. Okay. Now, the problem with that's not economics. That is not marketplace. This is the argument I have with my libertarian friends. There's nothing about these systems that we've implemented, especially on steroids under the Biden administration, that is freedom loving. Everything's out of whack. From the Fed balance sheet having $8 to $9 trillion because they're buying bonds and assets. They're even bailing out states now. Okay, from infusing cash into the market, quantitative easing, jacking up rates to put down. Meanwhile, a supply push and demand pull, inflation caused by high regulatory actions of the government, reduction of energy access to American businesses and consumers, and then printing the money, running those high deficits and this massive government spending, infusing all this cash into our market. And that's different for domestic prices than, let's say, all the dollars available needed for global trade in the Eurodollar systems overseas. They affect each other differently. So you got to understand this. Trump's saying we got to reverse this. This cannot sustain. This cannot be sustained. We cannot destroy our families, our communities this way. Okay, that's why credit card debt went up, because people are gapping things with credit cards. That's why personal bankruptcies are up. Total credit card debt is up. Okay, so look at that. You are still up 45% in 4 years, even after today. And even if we go down more, you're still way up. But those people in the bottom 80% can't participate in these markets because what would have been more disposable income is now going to their energy bill, gas in their car, food on the table. But these pieces of shit don't care. They care about themselves and their control. And the other political aspect that, again, some libertarians I argue with on this, is that when you have that much wealth, you concentrate power so much, especially with our insane political action, campaign finance with the political action committees and donating money, it yields them. Middle class people are like, I can't write a check to my congressional candidate, my state legislative candidate. They don't have the money anymore. Okay, so it concentrates power as well. It also puts more power in the hands of Wall Street and big corporations. Okay, and it increases their lobbying power and their political power. So you're creating an aristocracy. But unlike, let's say, old Europe, which was a landed aristocracy, this is a corporate aristocracy. This is a credentialed class aristocracy. And that is not what the founding fathers envisioned. And that it does not create the American dream of equal opportunity based upon the concept of free markets and economic liberty. Okay? So I would take that chart today and what happened to me today than the lived experience of 85% of the Americans, or probably 90%. So I wanted to put things in perspective, okay? That I think this is a great idea. Let's go. Buy American. Hey, I just found out how many factories Nike had. It's like, mostly women in Vietnam. What great company. That's why I don't buy any Nike products. Zero. If you see me with a pair of Nikes, it's because I bought it before I knew about Nike. I got one pair I use at the gym that I bought years ago. But zero. You never see a shirt on me, nothing. I buy New Balance, made in Maine. Matter of fact, Maine's 2nd congressional district, which voted for Trump. How come New Balance can make a great product for less price than Nike in Maine? So don't tell me this. Stop it. My car was not only built in the United States, it was built in my own state. Let's go. Let's do it, baby. All right. So let's go on to see what else is going on. Now, this was put up by a wealth manager. Okay. I'm going to show you the chart after I read this. It's kind of big here. Nice, clean break lower. Trump administration getting the response they want. Lower rates mean we avoid a financial crisis. $9 trillion needs to be refinanced, a major concern. Get rates lower, objective 1. If equity market tantrum, so be it. There are bigger issues. For now, stock market is not the top priority. It's fixing the fiscal mess Biden and Yellen left behind. So this is the 2-year Treasury. Okay, no. Okay, and he's showing it. Boom, there's the yields. Okay, now why did the yields go down? The yields went down because bond prices went up today because of the flight to safety. And if you don't know, there's an inverse relationship between bond prices and yields. Now, what was interesting, because COVID and after COVID, and it's the reason why the yield curve was flat. If you don't know, the longer you hold on to a bond, the longer the bond's duration is, the higher the yield is, meaning the percentage, because the risk is greater because you're holding it lower. But yet it was flat. There was no advantage for yields to buy a 10-year over a 2-year or a 30-year over a 10-year. They were, I mean, a little bit, but the curve was basically flat. And what was happening is the federal government really couldn't sell these bonds for the long duration. So they had to do 2 years and 2 years. So you have COVID bonds and bonds that were done during the American Rescue Plan and all the spending under Biden, they're coming due and have to be refinanced. Well, interest rates during COVID and when the Biden administration took office were very low still. And because of inflation, the Fed jacked it up. So, I describe it as a balance transfer credit card. If you ever heard of it, you take like an intro rate, you take your 20%, 25% on a credit card. If you open up a new one, you can move it over and you get 0% for like 18 months. Well, this is reversed. We're going to have to refinance debt at a higher rate. Okay? Because all these bonds are coming due. It's about $9 trillion, as said in the tweet. By getting these rates down, that's good. Also, the 10-year, which is tied to mortgage rates. The 30-year mortgage is tied to the 10-year treasury because it has to do with the average length someone has a mortgage for, because people refinance. They don't really hold it the full 30 years. Okay, for that reason. And that's coming down as well. So that's going to help the housing prices. Because remember, not just as those assets have been inflated, okay, during the Biden administration. That's all it is inflated assets, okay? But because of the inflation, the higher rates. So if you're like 28, just got married, you want to buy a house, you're priced out now. Some American dream, right? No. Instead, some rich dude's going to come in, buy the house you would have bought, he can afford it, turn it into an Airbnb, and then make a lot of money selling it to other rich people. That's the economic system we got in the United States. So, share that. So we'll throw in a little Canada here. It's from Thomas Sowell. Pierre Poilievre. If you don't know, he is the Conservative Party candidate for the upcoming Canadian elections. He's been slamming Trump, and he blew a conservative 30% polling lead, by the way. That's one of the reasons why Justin Trudeau resigned. And because of the fight and the Canadian quote-unquote nationalism over Trump, with everything from the Ukraine war and tariffs and all this, he's been siding with the Liberals. I think it's a big mistake, but he's hammering it. I don't consider the Americans to be a reliable trade partner right now. Their president has chosen to betray America's best friend and closest ally. How about this, schmuck? Why don't you lower prices for our dairy farmers along your border? Okay, or spend 2% of your GDP on the military instead of like 1.6, which I believe it's at. So I don't even want to hear it, Canada. Next one. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, another schmuck, by the way, said his country is ready to negotiate with the Trump administration to remove tariffs. By the way, so did Vietnam, because they got hit with 46%, and several other countries. So you're getting effect here. Oh, we'll see what we can do here. Okay. General Motors is increasing production in Indiana after Trump's tariffs. Well, if you're going to sell cars here, boom, make them here. Now, this is Olaf Scholz, the former prime minister, or chancellor, I should say. In Germany, his party lost, but he's going to be in the coalition with the new guy, Merz, who I'm not a big fan of also as well. But he said that he said that the Trump tariffs are an attack on the global trade order. No shit. That's the point. That's right. The days of you ripping us off are over. Now, if we could just leave NATO and let Europe deal with their own security, that would be even better. Plus two. And there's van der Leyen, the warmongering, unelected leader of the European Union, I might add. EU ready to retaliate against Donald Trump's tariffs, says Ursula von der Leyen. This is Miss 800 billion euros they're going to invest in military infrastructure. I don't know with that dream. You can go find one of my older videos for that one. But This is her. Now I hear she's ready to negotiate. Now, when they're ready to negotiate, that tells you that they're more afraid of our tariffs than we are of theirs. See, if we bring back factories, we bring back production, people start buying the. You can, dude. I want to buy linens. I'll go to My Pillow. A car, I could buy an American car. My washer and dryer were made here in America. You can find the products. Okay, so you can do it. And as production come in and maybe we work out some deals with some other countries in the short term or this and that and tweak certain things, that's fine. But if they're more afraid of your tariffs, then that tells you they're benefiting and they've been ripping us off. Okay, because imagine if they lose that because the trade imbalance comes off your GDP. If these European countries that are showing basically no growth, Germany contraction, are going to lose their trade imbalances with the United States, it's going to negatively affect their impact. There goes your 800 billion for military buildup for their upcoming war with Russia that they'll be ready for by 2030, according to them. And there goes your social welfare state. How are you going to spend all this in the military, make up for your trade imbalance, and then continue your welfare state? I've even heard comments saying, well, maybe the Americans are right, Europeans are lazy, we need to work. They're already preparing. It's unbelievable. All right, so let's move on to little domestic issues. Right now, Judge Boasberg is holding a hearing on why the planes weren't turned around the other week when he called on illegal alien criminals to be returned to the U.S. CBS. He's grilling the Trump administration, fuming, saying the Trump administration needs to slow down. It's not his decision to decide what rate that the Trump administration moves at, by the way. Zero, zilch, nada, okay? And the planes are in the sky in the international water. Really? Come on. You'd have to get it, whatever. This is what you're going to. I mean, these guys are ridiculous, okay? Again, these black robes, no say. They don't care about the Constitution. They find some precedent in law, whatever. Simple. It's a simple document. Follow it. All right. So, on that front, let's do a little Ukraine. So, Mad Max tactics. I've came across this. Ukraine is sacrificing Bradleys for speed and blood in Russia's Belgorod. If you don't know, Belgorod is right inside the Ukraine-Russia's border in Russia proper. Ukraine has, throughout the entire war, has been doing incursion tactics. And according to this article, what they've been doing is basically taking the Bradleys, because they're junk basically, just driving them into fortifications, things like that, willing to sacrifice them just to get in there and create. They want to create so much chaos so that Russia cannot to hold them pinned down a little bit there so they can't put more forces on the fronts, particularly, in the southern Donetsk and Zaporozhye region and up in Sumy. So if they can do all these little crazy things, Russia's going to have to deal with them so they don't have to reinforce and get larger on the flanks, basically, is what Ukraine is doing this for. But I thought that was an interesting article. I thought I'd share it. So a little Ukraine war update. So this map is interesting. So this is southern Donetsk, and you show where the Russians are pushing. They're clearly trying to create a cauldron on the eastern side of this map. Now, the arrow all the way to the left, which is towards the Zaporozhye region up there, you'll see the city Komar, Komap, it shows on the map. Okay, and that big highway above it, that is the N15 Donetsk Zaporozhye highway. So Pokrovsk is to the east. So what they're clearly doing is now they're creating multiple pinchers. They're trying to push to the supply line and really mess up the Ukrainian defenses. That'll make seizing Pokrovsk easier, and that's really the last big holdout in southern Donetsk. And if they go west, and there's been reports and there's been more activity on the Zaporozhye to the west. So they're clearly trying to open up more and more fronts and create supply chain problems and other problems for the Ukrainians. Another reason why they don't want even more forces redeployed. But there is still the rumor out there that there's some troops massing in Sumy and in Zaporozhye. And if that's true, they really have not been fully deployed yet. I can't confirm that, but I've heard rumors of it from multiple sources. So I'm going to zoom in on the west, I believe it was the western part of that map, going up to Komi. So this is a territory in a village that they've been going for there. This is right on the Zaporozhye border to the west. So these are activities that they have not been really active in for most of the war. It's been all about Donetsk, Kharkiv, and Lugansk. But Russia's still putting the pressure on there. So with everything going on in the world, just thought I'd give a little Ukraine war update. So yeah. So in conclusion, um, I want to just mention in the tariff thing one more time. We've had an order post World War II that worked. We had opportunities to do certain things after the Cold War. And at least in the Republican Party, there was the Pat Buchanan camp wanted to go one way, and then the Bushites went the other. The Bushites won. And we have seen, and then throw in neoliberalism, intense globalism, progressive ideology, and we're a mess because of it. And it's about changing that world order. Okay. It's about changing the systems to benefit the average American and to create more opportunities for the average American than just having a caste system of, oh, I end up going to this school because my dad was rich and I got into this school and I'm going to do this and do that. And then the only other choice people have is go insane debt for college or work in retail the whole life, okay, and just worry about paycheck. You can't have 70% of your population there. You'll always have poor things, whatever. It's not a utopia, but you got to reform the systems. We have to reform the security structures. We don't need to pay for Europe's defense anymore. We can make things at home and be more sufficient. And what we've learned is, it's not that hard to do. Look at Russia through the sanctions. Their economy has never been higher. I've done videos, showed their income tax growth, their GDP, okay? And they could do it with all these sanctions because they have resources. So do we, okay? So I think it's a great way going. We have to change the world. It's not the same. We are not the lone superpower. I don't want to get a war with another one of those large, powerful countries, okay? I want peace, stability, balance of power, and I want the best opportunity for our citizens as well. I want it to happen in other countries too. Why would on earth would I want them to fail? I want them to be self-sufficient. I want them to be strong. And then we trade for the shit that we need from each other on an equal basis. And then we compete and have some fun. Okay, that's the world. The last thing I wanted to do is comment on the Supreme Court election. We won the two Florida House seats in the special. One, I knew we were going to win. Six, I knew we were going to win. I didn't think we'd win by that big. So I'm happy with that. Now, Wisconsin, the voter ID bill won by 26 points. So it shows you a lot of, and this has been a lot throughout my life where Republicans and conservatives and populists will poll better on an issue than their candidates vote for. Messaging. Schimmel was not a great candidate. Schimmel, people did turn out. Lower props did turn out because he got just as much votes as the Democrat who beat Hagedorn 2 years ago, if not even more. So that's a good thing. But one, I know they hammered him on the abortion because he said stuff. Now, this is in Tennessee. This is the Midwest. They have a center-right view of abortion, okay? They don't want more so than Tennessee. They're not all about like abortion up like the lunatic lefties are, but they're also like 15 weeks, 20 weeks. They're in that area. So when you say comments like that and the Democrats harp on it and they have the money to run the ads and do the narrative, then they had the money to really juice up the early vote. I heard we did pretty good on election day vote, but they had a head start again. And here's the other problem, and the Republicans have got to get this. Particularly in the Midwest, without Trump on the ticket, we can't win. Now, Vance won in Ohio, and Ohio's a different animal, but Ron Johnson won in 22 by a couple points, right? But he's not the typical run-of-the-mill generic Republican. He was skeptical of populist ideas, okay? See, that's why he was able to get reelected, with the few exceptions. But generic Republicans, and if the party does not, the House and Senate go along with Trumpism and nationalism, economic populism, center-right policies, common sense stuff that the Trump administration is going to do and deliver, 2026 is going to be a wipeout. People aren't going to come out. They came out for Trump. A lot of them think Democrats are wackos, but you got to give them a reason, okay? And when they hear stuff, whatever, they're not going to come out. And so we have a serious problem. We will revert back to a regional party without Trump. So we have to adapt to that if you want to survive. And one of the things we have to do is get rid of these old fossils like McConnell, who voted today for the Canadian bill, to block Trump's tariffs. Okay, I don't even, the guy can't even walk. Okay, and the Grahams, and now I'm going to throw Cotton in there because he's the most warmongering person. Voted for the big omnibus under Biden just because it was important to get Ukraine. It's more important to him to get $20 billion to Ukraine than not screwing his constituency. That's the kind of person Tom Cotton is. Okay, we got to get rid of these people. We're doing good in some House areas. We're doing good in state levels. We're doing good there. But we need to embrace that. Otherwise, we go back to a regional party. This is our chance to reform this party, to make this country really great again. And we just got to do it and push forward. All right. So that's my video for today. Enjoy it. I'll keep an eye out on see what's going on with the tariffs, Ukraine, anything going on there, upcoming Canadian elections. I'm going to start looking into other stories on the foreign policy front and see where Republicans are. I'm here in May for the big, beautiful bill. We'll see how that goes. I'm hearing a $5 trillion uh, uh, debt ceiling increase. Not liking that. But anyway, you can follow me on my X at Patriot Planner 1 and my Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like the video, please follow, like, and share. All right. Have a great weekend and enjoy.